Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of TeikaTV. I've got amazing teammates with me today. I've got Gauri.
Hi everyone.
She's on our customer success team, and I've got Alex as well from our customer success team, and you're also working on new projects. So.
Yep, hey everyone, good to be back.
Yeah, so we're going to have a chat about some changes on Amazon in general and also on Seller Central. So it's going to be a great chat, but feel free to comment. Ask us any questions. We'll be reading whatever you write in out, and join the conversation. So we should start with some interesting Amazon news. How about that, Alex?
Oh, great.
Yes. So 6 cashierless stores. What do you think about that? That's the latest news. Of course, this is the Amazon Go stores.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Gauri knows more about this than I do.
Well, I don't know where the locations are, but it seems like Amazon is testing this out, and it's part of their foray more into brick and mortar. So sort of backtracking from e-commerce, trying to have more of a brick and mortar presence, and this is part of the push there.
Great. Well, we've got a couple of guest writes in. Hello, Simon. Very nice to have you listen in and watch us. I really appreciate you joining. Yeah, so I saw one of the Go stores when I visited Amazon. I wasn't able to go in at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty interesting concept. Obviously, you walk in, you just pick up your stuff and leave. I wonder what they're going to do with pricing. Obviously for Amazon sellers, pricing is dynamic pricing, adjusting prices. What do you guys think? Is Amazon going to use that to kind of maximize profit? Of course they will be focused on maximizing profit, but what do you think the buyer psychology is going to be like?
I think perhaps it's going to be hard because I think, especially after the Whole Foods acquisition, they have decreased prices in Whole Foods, which has been great because it was always super overpriced. It's amazing now, but I hope that they'll be able to at least make the prices equivalent in store and online, but I'm not sure how feasible that really is.
Do you think the prices will actually come down? Or do you think people will be willing to pay a premium for convenience and just kind of grabbing stuff? I think if you think about the technology, it's going to, how much time you save, just running in and just grabbing something and leaving. Do you think, it seems like they will factor that into the pricing, but
yeah, I imagine they're going to try and make as sticky a customer as possible. So it's probably going to try and tie into a Prime membership or some other way to make it more beneficial to be a part of Amazon Prime or have that membership and be a stakeholder and shop at the store.
I know, I think there probably is actually going to be 2 different situations that could happen. Like at first it's going to be all hype, and I think people would be more willing to pay the extra because it's more of like an experience of going shopping. But when it becomes more normal and more natural, I would hope that the price reduction would accompany that. But knowing Amazon, I also feel as though they're always trying to be as competitive as possible on prices. So I think perhaps they'll just start by having the prices low, just knowing them in their past history.
Okay. Well, this is definitely a live show because it looks like I got some information saying that my microphone's not working. So I'm going to go and fix that. And you guys should start talking about one of the topics here today, which is the Seller Central reporting. So, Alex, why don't you kick it off by talking about some of these changes on Seller Central? Yeah,
it's really great. So I'm not sure if everyone that's watching has seen. I think the big bulk of our conversation today will be about these new reports because Amazon, Gauri, they've released it, this week, I'm pretty sure?
Yeah, in the past week.
In the past week, and just to be clear, these are new advertising reports that have been released.
Yeah, so this is, if you go into Seller Central, go into the reports drop down and into advertising reports. So not in Campaign Manager itself, but if you go into the advertising reports drop down.
Yeah, right. So they've updated all of their sponsored products reports, and they've also added additional headline search ads reports, which has been much awaited by, I know, everyone on our team that's working with headline.
It's been a definite dearth of reporting, or complete absence of reporting, really, for headline search ads.
I know. I know that as of up until probably yesterday, I've had to manually go in and keep track of the performance of every single metric for every single campaign, what's really great is that now they've updated headline search ads to actually be exportable reports.
Well, let's just explain what headline search ads are for anyone who's listening, who doesn't know. Can you explain headline search?
Yeah, so it's the sparkle placement, right? Like when you're on Amazon and you see the top banner ad at the top that you're able to put 50 characters and kind of showcase at least 3 products. And I kind of think of it as the Super Bowl ad of Amazon advertising, more similar to traditional ads where you have copy and images and all of that stuff, in comparison to sponsored ads where you just have those individual product placements. You have no say in what products or pictures are shown, and no words associated.
It's interesting is you say Super Bowl, and I know where you're getting. You're going with that. That ad placement was definitely for the bigger sellers before. In fact, it was only available on 1p if you were selling to Amazon. Really big companies like Colgate or big brands that are in major categories, and then Amazon has now moved that over to Seller Central. And I think what they're doing is they're listening to sellers, hearing that they don't have enough reporting, and that's why we're seeing those reports.
Yep.
Gauri, can you comment on how headline search is doing for smaller brands? I know we've studied quite a bit of this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, headline search can be a more expensive endeavor for smaller brands versus sponsored products, because the cost per click almost across the board in every category is higher, and significantly higher for some keywords in headline search versus in sponsored products. So it is more of an investment. If you're deciding between one or the other, sponsored products is a more efficient way to get started, and then add headline search on when your budgets allow it.
Yeah, you've got to think about the budget differently. So going back to those reporting changes, I mean, what are the most important reports? If you're just starting out with headline search, what should you be pulling up every day?
Yeah, so just to kind of confirm, Amazon has updated the headline search ad reports and the sponsored ads reports. So we'll just stick with headline search ads for now. I think just the fact that there is any reporting at all is amazing, but there's a few different ones. I have them written down right in front of me. There is the keyword report, the keyword placement report, the campaign report, and then the campaign placement report. So we don't really have to go into each of those, because I think that there is just a clear few that are the most important.
Sure.
Gauri, maybe you would agree, but the keyword report is where I would probably spend the most of my time, because it will show you the search volume for all of those different keywords that you are bidding on in your headline search ad, which is really important because you want to make sure you're getting traction and you can identify the specific individual terms that are performing well and double down on those. The opposite too, probably, right?
Well, when you say double down, so let's just recap so the audience can kind of gather what you're saying in terms of. So you're looking at the keywords, and you're looking for the ones that are getting the most performance in terms of clicks, conversions. What does the report say?
Good clarity. I sometimes forget that. I just am so deep into it that I just keep running with it. But I think I would first start and look at, which keywords are getting the most impressions. Are those impressions turning into clicks? And then are those clicks turning into sales? So probably first and foremost would be concerned with conversion, i.e. the number of orders that were placed and the amount of brand sales that those keywords were able to generate. Gauri, would you agree?
I would disagree a little bit on that, because if I'm starting off with an HSA ads, my initial concern isn't going to be so much with conversion as it is going to be with impressions and number of clicks, because what I'm trying to do is get my product and my brand name front and center. I would just want to know how many people are clicking on my ad, trying to explore my product offering more. Even if it doesn't result in a sale immediately, that would still be pretty successful, because people are going to start to recognize my brand.
So Gauri, just let me recap, and thanks a lot for, this is great, and you guys have so much knowledge just helping so many sellers, so I'm learning a lot. So, the keyword report, you agree that that's, the most valuable report to look at.
Yep.
But you're saying that almost in the spirit of the ad objective itself, you might be going more for exposure, not necessarily conversion or clicks.
Yeah, especially the initial part, if you're just considering headline search ads for the first time and just getting started, which it's going to be pretty new for pretty much everyone. I think what it's going to be most successful for right off the bat is going to be impressions and clicks and exposure.
Yeah, if we just bounce off that too, you can look and see all of the keywords that you're bidding on, perhaps some that work historically well for you or are super in your listing, or you're bidding on them in sponsored ads as well. Make sure you go in and see how many impressions those are getting.
Yeah.
And by double down, I essentially mean, if it's a very valuable keyword, you should be willing to spend more money to get those impressions that Gauri's talking about.
And you've probably noticed this as well, Alex. What I see sometimes is if a keyword performs particularly well for sponsored products, I use that data, I add it into my headline search ad, which is a good system to get more keywords for your headline search ads. What I find often is that keyword isn't as efficient in my headline search ads as was in my sponsored products, because the cost per click is higher, the traffic is different, the competition is different. So I find that if it had a low ACoS in SP, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll have a low
That's true.
So you're looking, if you're using our software, you can obviously see the conversion and data and the analytics in our sponsored products optimizer app in sponsored products. You're taking that information and matching that over to headline.
Exactly. Yeah. So you find your best top contributing keywords and add them into your HSA.
Right. I think a lot of times that's okay, because you just really want to get as much exposure on those top performing keywords for you. So obviously, one way or another, the keyword's going to perform better.
Right. So
sometimes
that's when it's important to keep the differences in mind, is because that data is still going to work for you, but in a different way. So it might not necessarily be driving a low ACoS conversion in HSA, but you're still going to get exposure and impressions and clicks from it because it is a good keyword for you.
Right. So I think that you can have different goals for HSA and for all of those different campaigns that you have. If the goal is indeed impressions and exposure, you should gauge the results of those keywords, based on those different metrics we've talked about.
Yep.
If you're focusing on making sure you're getting sales, look at the conversion rate and look at the ACoS. But if you're using HSA for the purpose of getting impressions and exposure, and you're not so worried about making sales, then gauge the performance of those keywords based off of impressions and click-through rate in comparison.
So keyword report, unanimously #1 report to look at
for
in
HSA.
HSA. Yeah. What are the other changes, Alex, in the new Seller Central interface in the reporting?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ones for sponsored ads.
Yeah, so there's 5 total reports that are available under the advertising reports tab. So there is the classic search term report that a lot of you might already be familiar with, but that's been in the primary reporting for a long time.
Right.
There's also a keywords report in Seller Central for sponsored products. There is one that shows you your product placement.
Yep, so advertised SKU report, right?
Advertised product by placement, I believe.
Okay, yep, advertised product by
that's
placement.
One of the new reports?
One of the new reports.
Okay, and what does that tell us if we're,
Sure, so that report tells you essentially whether you were top of search or somewhere else in the search results. So there's not a whole lot of subtlety to the reporting yet. It's either top or something else.
And what does that really mean, though? What does top of search mean?
Sure, it's going to vary by category, I think, based on how ads place for each category. In some categories, you see sponsored ads across the bottom of the page, and some across the side, and in some it'll be right across the top. So I think it's going to vary a little bit based on category, but I imagine it's first page placement, but there's no clarification on there.
Interesting.
Right, so we'll have a list, so this placement report has a list of every campaign and ad group and SKU, and then there's an additional column that says placement, and it will either say top of search, i.e. that specific SKU in that campaign and that ad group was the top of the search, literally top of the page.
Does it say #1 or the rank, or just says top?
It just says top of search.
It just says top or other.
Or other, so other
So it's
could
just
mean
binary, it's either top or other.
yeah, 1, 0, or 1.
Yeah.
I see, and do we know that top means first place?
It does. It just means the top row. So essentially, 1, 2, or 3, depending on the category.
And there's no clarification on the report itself.
Right.
So possibly it could mean that, possibly not.
I mean, something that we're working on. So if you're a seller, obviously we're working it out. We're working with closely with Amazon on a lot of this reporting anyway.
Yeah, but it's still very new to us as well.
Yeah.
What would you? Is there any practical use for that? What are your thoughts on using that report?
I think it can be helpful. We do get quite a few questions about if I put this bid here, where is it going to put my ad? Is it going to be the top? Is it not? Is it going to be on page 1? So this could be a good way for you to see where your ads are in fact placing based on your willingness to bid. But it can also show you, you know, sometimes where you place is proportionate to how much you're willing to spend, and that's going to be the most efficient placement for you. So if an other placement is still giving you the results you want to, and it's a lower bid amount, why not leave your ads running there?
That's really true though, Gauri, because I find that people all the time always want to be on page one, on page one, on page one in the top of the search. But imagine if you go in and you look at that report and you see that, oh my gosh, like I'm much more efficient, I'm getting many more sales at a lower cost in these other placements, albeit I'm not entirely certain where those other placements are at this point, but just understand that sometimes the best spot for you isn't always going to be top of page one. It could be other.
What I would be interested in knowing as far as placement goes is not looking at just what the placement is for a particular SKU, but if I have multiple variations of a product, for instance, I would be curious to know which variation is getting the top placement versus the other placement, so I can help my other products and
of course, all of this
better.
is happening with competition. Other, you know, your people competing on the same keywords are doing the same thing. Okay, so that's interesting. So that's that sponsored placement report. So you know, sellers should look out for that. Obviously, experimentation is key to kind of looking at this as Amazon releases these new reports. What are the other changes?
The other report that's coming through is other product reports. So
I think it's
Alex has the official title.
Yeah, official title written down. Purchased SKU report.
Yeah, that sounds pretty useful.
It's my favorite report by far because it does something that Amazon has never done before. It actually shows you the click to attribution. So say someone comes in and clicks on your SKU and they purchase another product. Previously, Amazon would just say they purchased an other SKU. Now they tell you what SKU that is. So say you're selling, you know, different color shirts, someone clicks on the red one, but they end up buying the blue one. You actually are able to see that now, which I think is so valuable.
So it actually shows you, and is it the ASIN?
Yep, it's the ASIN. Yeah, we'll show you.
And then we should just explain for the audience attribution. So you use that word. So that's basically when you're buying an ad, the mapping or the linking of that click or that ad spend to an event, and this event being purchase.
Right. So someone clicks on your red ad and they end up buying your blue shirt. Amazon tells you that information now. Right. Which is insanely valuable because I mean, I would just be curious, again, with variations, perhaps there's like a trend, you know, someone clicks on the red one and then they're always going to buy the blue one or the white one. In that way, you know, when you're even creating a headline search ad, you always need 3 products in there. So it would be super helpful to know the likelihood of someone clicking on your red shirt and then buying your blue one or your yellow one or your white one. So you can use that information to create a headline search ad with those products grouped together. Does that make sense?
I think, yeah, it does. I mean, I think getting that data to determine what's converting is just better quality data on conversion. Are there any other thoughts on, does it change your bidding strategy at all? Does it change the keyword strategy if you can get more specific ASIN conversion data?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it should change both of those strategies. What I would do in this instance is, especially if I find that a particular SKU is underperforming in the sense that it's driving more sales and it's converting on its own, I would probably pull that out, set it up in a separate campaign, and try to bid higher on it than comparable products.
So that's actually the last report that we were looking at. I think it's the advertised SKU report. So this is pretty similar to the previous campaign performance report in that it will give you the SKU and ASIN pair now, but it will tell you of each individual product that you have in every campaign and ad group, the impressions, the clicks, the orders, etc. So as Gauri mentioned, perhaps like you have the same SKU advertised in different ad groups. And you might want to look and see, you know, it's performing well in one, but then in another one it's performing really poorly. You could perhaps pause that SKU in the poor performing ad group after you've identified it.
So it sounds like they're just, you know, providing more controls, more data is just more visibility. I think the challenge for a seller is just determining which one to look at, and I think everything's moving, obviously, everything's changing. So to review these reports and make adjustments, what are we recommending the frequency of adjustments be? I mean, in our application, Sponsor Products Optimizer, you know, we've got keyword actions. The software can automate that. If you're in Seller Central and you're using these reports here that Amazon's giving you, how often should you look at them? Is it a weekly job? Is it every 2 weeks? What do you think, Gauri?
I would say weekly is the best cadence, particularly for keyword actions, because regardless of how many additional reports you have available, you still want substantive data set to act on. So I think the frequency should still stay the same.
And then I think it's just a good business practice for any type of reporting to use the same frequency.
Yeah.
You know, if it's weekly, continue to use weekly. If it's monthly, continue to use monthly. I think.
What date range would we look over though?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What are the defaults? 30 days, perhaps? Look back over the last 30 days?
They give you the ability to have a customizable date range all the way back to 60 days. I like to look at a rolling 30-day period every week, so 30 days with a 3-day buffer. What's the date today? The 22nd?
Yeah, the
22nd. So if I were looking at 30 days, I would look at January 19th to February 19th. And then next week I would do like a week buffer in between.
But use the same look back period.
Yeah, usually look back 30 days.
I just think that's just good advice for our sellers to think about whether you're looking at your business performance as a whole, looking at the Amazon ad data, looking at any form of data, using the same period, getting into a rhythm of reviewing it with the same metrics, with the same look back period.
Yeah.
I think.
And I'd be curious to know if anyone has actually used these reports yet and what they've done with them, because they are so brand new. So if anyone has tried them out, I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah, so give us some feedback. You can do it live, or you can talk to us, and you know, we'd love to get seller feedback. You know, we've built a lot of new reporting into SP Optimizer, and it allows us to sort of slice and dice data between and compare. I think that's the other thing that's lacking on the Seller Central side, the ability to compare impressions. I know that you mentioned there are some new reporting or some graphs that they've added.
Some sellers may have encountered these already, but it looks like Amazon is testing out a new graph view in Campaign Manager. So it's not something you can turn on your own. Amazon has released it to certain accounts. It's taken it back. But what that shows you is the same metrics you would see in Campaign Manager, just graphed out, and you get to pick which two metrics to compare. So you could see impressions against clicks, you could see impressions against ACOS, and see sort of how that's trended.
Yeah, similar to some of the things that we have in SP Optimizer, but obviously without the automation and the algorithm that we've designed.
Yep.
Actually, I have something that reminds me. Another metric that Amazon added in is return on ad spend, which is really important, actually. So in comparison to ACOS, of which you calculate by dividing your ad spend by your ad sales, return on ad spend is basically the flip-flop. So your ad sales divided by your ad spend. And I think that this is like a really important metric because it just compares like it's a proportion of your revenue to your spend.
Yeah, so it's basically going to show you how much you made for every dollar spent in advertising.
Right, exactly.
And it's a more traditional ad metric, right?
Yeah.
Like and I think ACOS is so specific to Amazon. If you talk to people who don't work with Amazon, they're like, what's ACOS? But if you talk to them about ROAS. They're much more familiar. I mean, we've had sellers ask for that. You've got one particular seller who's like really, who's been very frustrated without seeing that in Amazon. Yeah.
And I think that they actually still wouldn't be happy with the metric that Amazon is giving you simply because it doesn't take into consideration any costs associated with your products or the margin of your items.
Right.
So it's just your advertising dollars. You're still in like the bubble of Amazon ads and doesn't look at your business as a whole, which I would argue is much more important, but at least it's a start.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I think sort of to wrap up these sort of reports, I mean, I think what's most important is sellers understand the relationship between advertising and their overall business. I mean, we see so often, I mean, it goes both ways. You see sellers who've put a lot of money into advertising, they're not sure of the profitability, and then they switch the ads off. That's obviously the wrong direction, or really being very, very concerned about profitability or not really understanding the profitability. And you've mentioned attribution, Alex, like that's one of the key pieces. You know, how many of your ads are actually converting? I think the HSA stuff just becomes a lot harder, right? Because you're almost in the traditional ad realm of like brand awareness. And sellers have to start thinking about what that's going to mean, because we've got these new areas in Amazon like Amazon stores, you're going to see more and more ad placement. You know, what Amazon HSA is doing is giving you, as you said, that sparkle placement, but it's going to show up in multiple places on an Amazon page. If you read the earnings report, you know, the Jeff Bezos mission that, you know, is going to grow advertising significantly in 2018 and beyond, the sellers that really are going to be profitable are going to be the ones that understand that relationship between ad spend and growth.
Yeah.
So it's tricky though, it really is tough.
I think like if we want to just like summarize though, if you guys are going to go and look at these new reports, the big ones, if you're running sponsored ads to look at, of course, is the search term report always.
Right.
But I think also the purchase SKU report is important for that attribution. And then when it comes to headline search ads, I would just primarily focus on the keyword report. Not so much on that placement, as it's pretty arbitrary at this point and relatively ambiguous and kind of iffy. But I think those three, if you were going to spend your time analyzing the results, are definitely the most valuable.
And just to wrap up our little episode here, where can our sellers find these reports?
Yeah, it's going to be in Seller Central under reports and advertising reports.
Right.
And you have tabs for sponsored products, and if you have headline search ads, that's a tab as well. And you can switch back and forth between the two reports.
Great.
And you can also see the old reports too.
Yes.
So if you prefer the old reports, which are a bit more like time focused, you can still access those. But yeah, the new reports are definitely a simplified version. I prefer them personally because it's not as
it's not as
granular or cluttered. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Well, you guys should check them out. If you have any comments, let us know. Obviously, connect with us if you have any questions regarding your Amazon advertising. We'd love to help you. So it's been a great episode. Thanks for all the knowledge that you guys have shared. And you take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.